Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ron Lutters for Hub Radio Phoenix. This is Breaking News, and I'm here with Mr. Ray Michaels.
Hello, everyone.
And our great superstar, Liz Harris. And we've got some things that we want to talk to you about. And we're just going to start out with Liz Harris because she's got some really interesting and important facts for you, the citizens of Arizona and the citizens of the state of confusion.
It's essentially a dream come true. So many of us may have heard that originally it was HB 2596. It was the bill that it's what a lot of America wants to see. It's a bill that is currently how a lot of America currently votes, and that is 1 day of voting, limit the mail-in ballots to the disabled and the military and the hospitalized, etc. To do hand counts, to have strong voter ID, and to have smaller precincts. So when that bill first came out, that's when I decided, hey, I'm going to run, because I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
They were actually going to put legislation into effect that would...
Tell us you're going to run for...
So I'm going to run for Legislative District 13, House of Representatives.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Wonderful.
and that's the new 13.
It's the new 13, the old 17. So we gotta get used to all these new numbers. Okay, so then Rusty Bowers, the Speaker of the House for Arizona, he decided to assign that bill to the Rules Committee, which all bills have to go to, plus 12 additional committees.
That's all of them.
That's all of them.
He threw it to everybody. Now, normally, and we've talked about this on the show, normally when a bill comes out, they send it to one committee, maybe two if they want a really close look at it, but I don't think they ever send it to every single committee.
Right.
They do that for a reason, Ray.
And what is that reason, Ron?
That reason is to kill the bill.
Yep.
Because
Wow.
any one of those 12 committees can say no, and it's a done deal.
Wow. Okay, so go on, Liz.
So the sponsor of this bill is Representative John Fillmore. So he actually, he has actually had it turn into a couple different bill numbers, but now what the bill number is HB 2289. And that's really important to remember because yesterday it passed the Senate committee with amendments, and the vote was 4-3. So we won it by one vote. It's now going to move along. They're going to try to make additional amendments to it. But I want to go over the amendments that they're probably going to make. And understand, they're not making the amendments to appease Democrats because the Democrats are going to vote against it. The
Right.
Democrats think that this is the worst thing ever. And that it's affecting people of color and indigenous people.
Which it is not.
It's not. It really isn't.
This is the way we did it for decades. For
over 200.
Right, so this is the
20 years.
normal procedure. When I was growing up, when you were growing up, Ron, when you were growing up, everybody voted in their district. Everybody knew who they were. They hand counted, and everything made sense. And you had an answer before the end of the night. Right? And they submitted it. So this isn't anything new out of the ordinary. This is just going back to the basics.
Right. So one of our legislators, now I appreciate him for voting yes, but one of our legislators said, I don't trust the machines, but I also don't trust people, meaning the people counting. So here's what one of the controversies are. So historically, a precinct in the United States is 1,000 registered voters. So after the canvassing that I did with a team of hundreds of people, I realized December 2020, by the end of the month, all the canvassing that we did, that we needed legislation such as 1 day, 1 vote, limit the mail-in ballots, etc. Prior to that, I was a huge believer in permanent early voting list and the mail-in ballot because it made my life really easy when it came to voting. So when I voted on Friday, October 30th, 2020, I actually made a little video that said, hey, no shenanigans here. Arizona's had the mail-in ballot since 1994. Get out and vote. And I really believe that. But then after November 3rd, 2020, and all that canvassing that we did and everything that we found, I realized, no, the mail-in ballot's not the most wonderful thing since sliced bread. So So bringing us to what happened yesterday, I was advocating for 1,000 registered voters per precinct. So what the number of 1,000 would do, it would be shorter lines, less ballots to count, and faster results. That's the way I viewed 1,000. The bill that was introduced, it's at 1,500. What was discussed yesterday was, oh, we got to move it to 2,000. But then out of the other side of the person's mouth, it was like, but we're not going to be able to count them all. So by increasing your precinct sizes, you're just adding more burden to the count. But wait, something else came out. And we're going to need to use machines that are not hooked up to the internet to facilitate. So when I
Haven't we heard that before?
This is like history repeating itself.
Well,
They say nothing to see here, just move along.
So Fillmore is agreeable. So when I got Representative Fillmore, so when I got up to the microphone and had my big 90 seconds, I was like, we're going the wrong direction. I want to go to 1,000 registered voters per precinct, and instead we're increasing it. And Fillmore got a little upset because he's trying to get this through. We're trying to appease Republicans. There's something wrong here. We hold a one-person majority in the Senate and one-person majority in the House, and this should be a non-issue. And yesterday, I pointed out, Democrats cheat, but there's cheating within Republicans as well. So this is really a nonpartisan issue, and I keep stressing that. There was something that I was broadcasting this morning. This is not just about 2020. They're questioning the Janet Napolitano race for governor now. Did you hear about that?
Of course, yeah.
And so it's huge.
So the great Henry Ford once said that nothing is too complicated if you break it down into small segments. So just for everybody's knowledge, and this is, it's not politics, we're just laying out the facts. You have a precinct. A precinct is basically a neighborhood, right? You know each other, you see them, you wave to them, you walk your dogs. It's a nice little area. It's called a precinct. So you get precincts, a whole bunch of precincts together, and it becomes a legislative district. And from the legislative districts, it becomes the county. So what Liz is saying is that the precincts where we know each other, we wave to them every day, we go and borrow sugar from across the road, we know them. We know that if somebody doesn't belong, we know it. It's like a neighborhood watch, basically, is what it is. Right. So you vote in your precinct, and you have people from your precinct that are getting together, volunteering, working together, and whether you vote one way or the other, or an independent vote, or a libertarian vote, it doesn't matter. We're all coming together to work, and there's oversight within the same community, and it's safer. So you have somebody from the Democrat side, somebody from the Republican side, somebody from the independent side. They all supervise it, and together they have the number, they make the call to the county, and they report their numbers, all equally agreeing this is what it is. Like it or not, this is what it is, and that is it. They have the paper ballots in front of them. If they ever need to do an audit, it's very quick, it's a small number, and that's the way that it should be. What you're saying now is they're saying, well, what worked for decades and hundreds of years doesn't really work now because we're too smart now. We're getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and machines should be in charge. What we're saying is, no, it's worked. We've always had an answer that night. We know who the winner is. It doesn't stretch out over weeks and weeks, and then there's no way to audit it, and there's no way. You saw the show that we put out last night. 80%, now this is surprising, but 80% of the votes had a break in the chain of custody. 80%, no chain of custody. And
Which means, Ray, that in some point, those ballots were left alone. Nobody was watching them, and they could have been switched very easily.
And you know what? We're not accusing anybody of doing anything.
No,
we're just saying that the possibility of something going wrong during that 80% is fairly high.
It's like going to the store and leaving your house unlocked.
Yeah.
If I could just say that. You don't know if somebody's been in there or not.
And you know what? For those of you who are new, and I know we have a lot of new viewers, we appreciate that you
Yes, we do.
you subscribe to this channel as well. But Liz Harris, right here, has been a rock star from the beginning.
Thank you.
She ran for office, and after the election, she said, "You know what? I want to do a little bit more." You organized hundreds and hundreds, if not into the thousands, of volunteers to canvass. Now, you've probably heard this because she has had national exposure. Mike Lindell, as well as President Trump, they've all given you great accolades. We appreciate you being
And
here
she's even been
for
to
this
Mar-a-Lago.
special. Yes, and for the special report. And so your commitment and your heart is just beyond belief. It really is. And we thank you so much. We really honor you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
So when she says that this is going on, this is really going on. And she knows from there, you've been with the grassroots and you built, I mean, the canvassing, I think it's, like I said, it's nationally recognized what you were able to do. And this was something that you had no idea how big it was going to be.
No idea.
Wow.
And we didn't know what the results were going to be when we started.
Yeah.
It was a blind canvas.
Now you said, and I hate to interrupt, but you said that you broadcasted this and something that you're going to be talking about. Where can they find you? Because this is important information, and if they want to follow you, you're easy to reach.
Right. So right now, the big national channel is Frank's Speech. It's Cause of America, and it's Arizona. So we have James Knox and I, he's my colleague on the canvassing effort. We have a daily morning show at 5:30 a.m. Arizona time.
She wakes me up every morning. Every morning.
And we're basically, we're hitting what the major news is every day. And then we're also going to start bringing up some of these canvas findings individually, but we'll redact the name and address. Because, there's no reason to dox people. And it's important to know that a lot of these situations where we found massive anomalies, it's not the individual that committed a crime. It's something that's happening on the back end, either, maybe a ballot harvester submitting a ballot for them, or, data being manipulated. But we'll go over all these cases at 5:30 a.m. We're going to have a few cases every
Would you
day.
guys please give me the thumbnail about 9 o'clock? Ray, you call me, tell me what Liz said at 5:30.
But what I want to say is what you mentioned about the precincts, you're spot on, great example. So don't you think that it's going to be easier to recognize 1,000 of your neighbors than 2,000?
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
And that's
Plus,
my point.
it increases the participation too. If you have a precinct of 1,000 people and you need somebody to help run it, you have more committee involvement, more community involvement than you would if you had 2,000, because you're still going to have the same number of involvement for 2,000 or 1,000. So you double the involvement, meaning that people know what's going on. Something can't get by them. I mean, look at the state that we're in right now, even with our school districts. It's because we have not been on guard. And it's really our duty, our civic duty, to be on guard, to make sure that we are involved in the decisions that are made that affect our life on a daily basis.
Right. And one of the concerns is that they're not going to be able to find enough poll workers, but I know that people are charged up. They will be there.
100%.
Well, let me explain something, because I've been through this a great deal. And if you watch the paperwork that you need to fill out when you get to the polling place, not with the early ballots, but the polling place, you sign in, you identify yourself, they give you a voting number and so forth. But they have what's called a tear sheet that's in that pile of about 5 documents. And the tear sheet goes to the Republican precinct committeeman, the Democrat precinct committeeman. I think there's one for independents. And you know who voted, and you'll know what time they voted. Now, if you're a precinct committeeman, you're really doing your job, you've already counted your votes. You about know who you want out there.
Right.
And it's your job to make sure they get to the polls and vote. And so that tear sheet becomes a very important document for you, because you've got a list of all the people that you know are going to vote for the candidates that the party, whatever party it is. And then you say, okay, there Joe voted, okay, there's Jane voted, so forth and so on. And as it gets closer and later in the day, what do? You make sure that your voters get out there to vote. it's a beautiful thing because it really gives more participation than we have now. And so it was established many, many years ago, as you said, Ray. This country is what, 244 years old, and we've been doing this since day one. But now all of a sudden we have to have machines. And those of you that have machines at home, when your computer goes down, what do?
Yeah.
You just panic. You have no idea anymore how to react without the technologies that we have. And we should all know how to deal with things without all the technologies. And voting is certainly one of them. It's your responsibility as an American to participate in your government. Our documents, Liz, say, "We the people."
Yeah. And Ron, you brought up a very important point about precinct committeemen. And we've talked about this a lot on the show. Liz is very familiar with it. And there's news that's happening now about precinct committeemen. Tell us exactly what precinct committeemen have done in the past and what has transpired over the last couple of weeks.
All right, well, let me take us back the last half year to year, because this is kind of exciting. So the precinct committeemen, a lot of people don't know or understand what it is. So the precinct committeeman, again, it's you're a person in your neighborhood. We have precinct committeemen for each party. And what we do, throughout the year is we talk to registered voters. When it comes to election time, we let people know who their candidates are. And then we let PCs, precinct committeemen, we might hold meet and greets at our homes for the candidates so that we can engage everyone in their civic duty of voting. So they call it get out the vote. So that's the major responsibility of precinct committeemen, in addition to recruiting other PCs. So in Arizona, we are blessed to have one PC per precinct plus one PC per 125 registered voters. So if you have a precinct of 1,250 people, you would have 11 PCs. Historically, these spots remained vacant. You might have had a 30-40% fill rate. So after November 2020, a lot of people went into, high gear, what can I do? And one of the things that myself and Dan Schultz and Dan Farley and a lot of other wonderful people told people, become a PC. So the Republican Party in Maricopa County grew to 4,700 PCs.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. So we had a couple extra, I want to say, I don't know the exact number, but a major surge of PCs. And then I know both of you talked about this in depth, but they tried to dismantle that process.
When you say they, who are we talking about?
The Association of Counties and probably some Republican legislators.
Now, a PC is an important position because you are actually elected. You have to get signatures, and you are voted into that position. And if they have more PC candidates than they do positions, there's actually a ballot that has to go out, and everybody's voted on it. Now,
and Ray, one other thing that I think is important, and a lot of PCs don't know this, you are an elected official of
Yes.
the county in which you reside and have been elected. You are an official.
yeah, that's exactly right. Now, there was a bill that came about in both the Senate and the House. We talked about it here, and it was I believe it was the first time. I'd have to double check this, but historically, to have a bill that is authored by the Speaker of the House and authored by the President of the Senate, presented to both houses, or the House and the Senate, presented, voted, approved, and then those together taken to the governor's desk, put it on there, and have him sign it. All of that happened in the same day. They suspended all the rules. They suspended the normal procedures of going through committee and everything. They suspended all of that, which required a 2/3 vote,
Yep.
right, from both the House and the Senate, and they pushed it through. But for some reason, they didn't read the bill. And we talked about it here on the show. I went down, as you did, to speak on behalf of what the heck's going on. And And so tell us, kind of bring us up to date on what's happening with
Okay,
that.
so the big update is that Section 4 was repealed, which means, I was saying, they tried dismantling the entire PC movement. Well, Section 4 being repealed means that the PC elections that they tried to cancel are back on. So if you are a PC, we need to get our petitions filled out. If you would like to become a PC, contact me. You can find me very easily, but contact me because
She's right here.
I can give you instruction. You have until, I believe the
April
date is
4.
April 4th,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So we have until April 4th. We still have vacancies. We really want, if I can say, constitutional conservative patriots. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to explain it. But historically, the PC in Arizona and in many blue states throughout the country, they try to put in the establishment, for the Republican Party, they try to put in establishment people or people where they're a PC on paper only. Here, fill out the thing.
Vote on my behalf. I don't want to be there.
Right,
Yeah.
become a PC and then give me your proxy and I'll vote. And that is actually how, rest his soul, John McCain handled the state for all these years. And the McCain legacy lives on. There's no question.
You know, it's revolutionary, Ron, because what this bill did originally is it said we're not going to determine the amount of PCs in a legislative district by how many registered voters in that party you have. You know, like you said, you give the example of 11 for 1,250 people in a precinct. We're going to make it one PC per precinct. So it dropped down from having, 11, some places have 30 or 40 PCs. It would have dropped it down to one. Now, what surprised me is in the Senate hearing, the county chair and several county chairs came up and said, nobody asked us, because they would have been responsible. The county chair would have been responsible for deciding who was going to be appointed a PC. And the state chair said, nobody talked to us either. It wasn't even part of the realm of picking up the phone and saying, hey, we're thinking about doing this. So this is actually an amazing thing. This happened yesterday up in Prescott, right?
The repeal?
The repeal.
I thought it was this morning.
Was it this morning?
yeah.
Oh, it
It
was
is
this
this
morning?
22nd, yes.
Okay, they heard it yesterday, I believe, and it was made, the decision was
I think
made
it
this
was-
morning?
the whole
Or
thing was
The whole
today.
thing was this morning. Okay, very good, very good.
Now,
Days
the-
are running into
Now,
each other, I'll tell you.
and this is one of the things that's problematic with the legislature. I doubt they did the same thing with the Democrats. They probably didn't notify them either. And these are people, Ray and Liz, that represent the people of the state of Arizona, and they don't even notify the leadership in the very
Yeah.
political parties. There's something wrong here, and as they said, there's something rotten in Denmark.
Now-
This is a shame that they get into this thing, voted it as an emergency issue. No hearings, no public comments, no anything. This is wrong.
Right.
Thank God the judge
So-
finally said, this is
Yeah.
wrong.
So part of the problem, and you probably talked about this, is that this legislation was given to the legislators without being highlighted in blue and all
Right.
caps.
Yeah. Now, under normal circumstances, if it changes a statute or something has changed, there's a different color and it's in caps. But they just briefed through it and said, okay, there's no changes, so we're going to vote on it. But here's what's curious, Liz, and I wanted to ask you about this. So because it was an emergency bill, it required a 2/3 vote on it, right? So when they decided to repeal Section 4, it put the Republicans in a very difficult position because the Democrats said, well, they wanted a lot. Nobody, to my knowledge, nobody there from the Democratic side was arguing that, hey, we don't like this. I didn't see any. But now they were trying to play the power play, saying, we'll vote and be part of the 2/3 if you don't do this bill and you don't do that
Right.
bill and you don't do that
Right.
bill. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, again, I just want to rewind a little bit. At first, so this all happened on, I think it was a Thursday.
Right.
Or whatever day
Thursday.
it was. And then that Sunday night, Senate President Karen Fann got on a Twitter call, and there were a couple hundred of us. Were you on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of sounded like, don't worry, folks, this will be repealed. Like, it didn't seem like an issue. But here's the deal. If you were paying attention and you realized that there was a sudden surge of PCs in the Republican Party, so I'm going to talk Maricopa County. We have over 4,700 PCs. The Democrat Party has 1,843, and the Libertarian has 700 something. So with this verbiage, one PC per precinct, the Republicans stood to lose 3,700 PCs. The Democrats, 900 PCs, and the Libertarians would have been fine just reassigning. So the effect that this had on the Republican Party, I think once the Democrats realized what was
It
happening,
was devastating.
there was no way. So the two rumors that I heard as far as negotiations, one was Ducey, tell me if this is what you've heard, Ducey calling a special session.
Right.
Now Ducey's Republican, and he would have done his flat tax bill. Did you hear that?
Yes.
And then there was another rumor, and what was the other? The
Well,
one,
that the
if we
election integrity
yeah,
bills,
the election integrity, the one with the ID vote.
Right.
That if we canceled, so that right now, it has been voted in by both House and Senate to be a referendum on the ballot, and that's basically the voter ID initiative. And that will require, if you mail in a ballot, you need to identify yourself with either the last four of your social or your driver's license number. So they wanted that to come off the ballot.
Right.
And that, I think, was the Democrats that wanted
Yeah,
that
they
off
put
the ballot.
themselves in a very difficult
They
position.
wanted to make sure that there was no requirement to register to vote. If you just said, yes, I want to register, you do, and not that you were a citizen of this country and a citizen of the state of Arizona, which you have to have now.
Yeah.
Except if you're on the federal registration.
So this morning, the judge said that Section 4 of this bill
Is
is
unconstitutional.
unconstitutional, so it goes back to exactly the way it is. And if you want to be a PC, you want to get involved, if you're an existing PC, your term expires in August. If you want to,
September 30th.
September 30th?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if you want to be a new PC, you have up until April 4, and you need to get 10 signatures from your precinct. You can be one of them, so you only need 9. So talk to friends, family, neighbors to get that, and you too can be part of this process.
Yes.
How
And
exciting
you can
it
reach out
is.
to me, Dan Farley, Dan Schultz. We're all out there on social media. You don't have to come to me. Any one of us would be more than happy to basically guide you through the way. It's very easy and it's very rewarding. And I just want to tell you how I became a PC. When President Trump, before he was president, first rally he came to in Arizona, I think it was June of 15, or whenever it was.
I think it was July.
Okay, it was hot.
It was.
So I was there, and I do believe Trump exaggerated how many people were in the room, but we were in the room, and maybe fire code, we were maxed out. Some friends saw me, and they said, Liz, you like politics? And I'm like, no, but I like that. But I like that guy. He kind of is saying everything I'm thinking. I kind of like him. And then they were to my house within a week with the application to become a PC. And not only did they drop it off, but they followed up with me and came and picked up that form within a week, a day. And then they described to me what the PC and name only was, and that is how John McCain kept control of the state.
Yeah, wow.
Thank you for letting me share that.
No, that's awesome, awesome. And now there's some other breaking news that you talked about on your channel. Again, that's on Frank's Speech, and what is it called?
Frank's Speech, Cause of America.
Cause of America.
And Arizona, and they're setting up a Cause of America for every state. So again, James Knox and I are running the one for
He's very
Arizona.
funny. He's very funny. I like him.
He's a former Montana legislator.
Is that right? And he's got all this, what is that on his face? What do you call that?
A beard?
Oh, yeah, I can't grow one.
You can't.
No, I try, but it doesn't work.
That's funny, but you shave. Okay.
I do, yes,
Okay,
yes.
but you can't grow a beard.
He uses tweezers. He uses tweezers to
All right,
shave.
so what did you break the
Okay.
news on this morning?
So
Wow.
this morning, I did a supplementary show to that one, but essentially, I played Mike Lindell on The War Room, And the exciting news there is that he now has the evidence, thanks to Tina Peters of Colorado. And Tina Peters is now, she's throwing her hat in the ring for Secretary of State for Colorado. So that's very exciting. And what they found should eliminate all machines throughout the entire country. But how are we going to do that? So Tina Peters, just as a matter of protocol, not because she thought they were going to do anything funny, she backed up servers, and essentially she's proving that the data was changed. No, like, this is like proof. So now Mike Lindell, with his attorneys, should be able to go state by state, and I would imagine they'd start with subpoenas, right?
Right.
To get that data. Yeah, stuff I've always kind of asked for, like log files and all types of things like that. And to get that data and then hopefully indictments.
Wow. Well, that's what we talked about last night with Verity Votes, because they did FOIA requests and they said, we want to know the evidence. And that's where they came up with this. And, the thing is that many people let the facts get in the way with what they believe. And the facts should actually be what they believe, but they really don't. So he came out, and when is this going to be released? Is this going to be soon? Has it been released?
Mike Lindell stated he's going to release everything he has.
And then we have something else. I don't know if you know about this, but in the same vein, Dinesh D'Souza is coming out with a brand new movie.
Yeah, which I'm really excited about, 2000 Mule.
And tell us a little bit about that.
So I was honored and privileged, thanks to Senator Kelly Townsend. She actually reached out to the consultant for True the Vote. His name is Greg with 2 G's, Philip. And he actually gave us a presentation in December to show us that what happened in Georgia with, it's a form of ballot harvesting where people are paid to go pick up ballots and to deliver them to the drop boxes and to take a photograph of them while they're putting the ballot into the drop box. And what was really amazing is that some people, like if you just watch the camera, they would wear gloves and they'd go straight up to the drop box, drop it in. They never looked to the left or right, and there would be like a garbage can behind a column. So unless you had been there numerous times, you wouldn't automatically take off your gloves and turn back and drop them in the garbage can unless this was like a regular stop for you. So what they used cell phone data. Now, cell phone data, understand, the cell phone companies just do not give it out. So they had to use a lot of strategic ways to develop heat maps to figure out who the people were in Arizona that did this, both Yuma County and Maricopa County. And the reason they had to use the heat maps is because on a lot of our drop boxes, we do not have camera surveillance. So that's why we had to rely on the heat maps within the cell phones, or, to see. And then the other, there's so much that goes into it. Because if it's a place in which someone works, you don't want to, you don't want to accuse someone if they're showing up to work every day in a vicinity near that drop box. So this is very fascinating, and that movie is going to come out, my understanding, is late October, early May. And again, that is Dinesh D'Souza. And I just want to say, Dinesh D'Souza, he has put out a lot of great movies.
Yeah.
This is not going to be his first one.
No.
And I remember when my daughter was 14, she wanted a cell phone upgrade. I'm like, you're 14 years old. But if you want to come and see a Dinesh D'Souza movie with me, we can talk about it. And she did.
Well, he is a great guy. My brother has some dealings with him and his organization. So we're going to try to see if we can maybe get a preview here in Arizona.
That would
we'll
be
definitely,
awesome.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted on that.
I hope the movie theaters pick it up.
Well,
you never know.
The
Never
movie
know.
theater here, you go by it only, it's closed now, and they're going to tear it down.
The one by our office over here.
Our office,
Yeah.
right here, right on the other side of the store. And they're going to build multi-family apartments, which
We have a housing
is
shortage.
pretty disappointing. Now, there's one thing, Ray, that we didn't talk about, and I want to talk about because it's the elephant in the room. The Attorney General of the state of Arizona has been looking for some misgivings and misdoings for quite some time. And Mark, we're pretty disappointed that you haven't bothered to notify the public when
And he watches this show.
he watches this
Yeah.
show. So I'm addressing you, Mark Brownovich. Please tell us when we can expect some kind of a result of that. Your
Give it, or
work.
at least an update.
An update.
Give us an update.
Now,
Keep
Ray,
us informed.
the good news is we're having breakfast with him in 2.5 weeks.
Are we?
We are.
All right.
And guess what one of the questions going to be?
Who made the eggs?
Who made the scrambled eggs? And what in the world are you doing? Why does it take you a year and a half to come up with some kind of results?
Well, now in the state of Arizona, something else happened today with attorneys. Ron, do you want to tell us about that
yes,
as well?
Yes, and this is
You heard about this, yes.
tragic thing. Our attorney for Maricopa County has resigned. She has had some difficulties, and recently, I don't need the exact number, Liz. It was like over 100 cases that they failed to prosecute, and the accused just walk free.
Yeah, they didn't meet a time deadline.
Timeline. They
Yeah.
had, I don't know how many years it is, but let's just say 24 months or 36 months. If you're not bringing, because the Constitution says you'll have a speedy trial.
Right.
And so there are time limits on this, and her office did not do that. Now, granted, she has been ill for much of the time, and she has some other issues. Unfortunately, she did something that I think is she should have conveyed this information to the Republican Party, I believe, because she is a Republican, because of her selections of the date in which it was her last day on the job, has created a lot of difficulties in terms of, do we have a special election, special appointments, because her term's not fulfilled.
She
She's
just
still-
won. in
Yeah, she just won in
2020.
2020.
Right.
So she's got, a little less than 3 years left, and so now we've got another issue. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow night on Fighting Back.
Yeah.
I heard one of Ducey's people is running, which makes people nervous.
And we have to remember too, because we're Americans and because we truly care about each other, no matter which side you're on, this shouldn't be an infighting. On a personal level, we wish her the best. We really do. On a business level, I think that it could have been handled in a much different way, and there could have been a lot more
Should have
communications.
been professionally handled, and it wasn't.
Yeah, so this is not a personal thing because we do wish everybody well on a personal basis. But when you're in public service, you have to think about what is best for the public. And if she did not contact the Republican Party or work out with people, what is the best way for me to graciously exit? What's going to be beneficial for the people of Maricopa County? If she didn't have that as her number one priority, you really shouldn't be in public service because it is a sacrifice and you do have to put the people first. And I don't think it took place on this occasion.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, when the information first came out about her and her illness, I remember hearing, "Don't worry, it has not affected my job performance."
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
And that was the reason why she said, I am definitely not leaving. It's not going to happen, and never say never.
Apparently, it did affect it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, when you let over 100 cases, and I don't know what the cases were, to be honest with you. They could have been anywhere between somebody just walking out of a store without paying.
But Ron,
for
it really
something
doesn't
all the
matter.
way
I
up.
mean,
yeah, well,
that's
if
your
it's a
job.
crime and that's your job,
Yeah.
you assign those cases to your attorneys and you prosecute.
She has a staff.
Yeah. It's not like she's the only lawyer there.
Yeah.
So, but Ray, I wanted to, once again, as we're nearing the end of this, I think it's really important to tell the people, once again, to watch Backstreet Gossip last night. These are friends of yours, I understand, Liz, and this is Andy and Heather
Right.
from Pennsylvania and Michigan. And the audit that they have done is drop dead important. For those of you that are wondering what's going on, you need to see this show.
And this was all done through FOIA requests.
Yes.
So this is the actual documentation that maybe they didn't cover in the actual audit that we did here, but they said, you know what, these things are important and we need to bring it out. So they sent I mean, this didn't happen overnight.
No.
I mean, they had to request certain things and then they got answers and they said, but this isn't what we asked for. And even going to the U.S. Postal Service, a government agency, and saying, well, we need authentication, we need confirmation on these things took place. And the response that they got was really eye-opening for somebody who cares about election integrity, no matter which party you're on.
And they always say that politics is dirty. And folks, it is. If you let it be dirty, don't let it be dirty.
Yep.
Hold these people's feet to the fire and get angry.
So Liz, thank you so much for showing up. We really appreciate this because this was a special report. You know, you drove all the way up here, so thank you. Can you recap those 3 big items so that all of our listening audience can take that home with them?
I want the most important thing is to support HB 2289. Again, that's HB 2289, and that is the one day, one vote legislation. Because we have a couple legislators who are currently killing every election integrity bill there.
All right, who are those? We need to know who
I
those
was
are.
going to say, Liz Harris, how can we affect that?
Okay, so you need to, I mean, the people the most likely suspects on who's going to vote against this is Arizona Senator Paul Boyer, and Arizona Senator Michelle Ugenti-Rita. And I think some of the others, it's questionable on how they're going to vote on this, especially if they don't get machines back in and 2,000 registered voters per precinct. I don't know how it's going to go. But if we have another public outcry, so, I mean, honestly, if you're in Australia and you care about the United States being a beacon of hope, go ahead and call these people and tell them, hey, I'm not a constituent, but you got to wake up and smell the coffee.
And Liz, we want to remind everybody, so HB 2289.
Right.
But there's also a Senate bill, right? Was that already passed?
No, so that's it.
Oh, it's just the one?
It's just the one now. The other one that was assigned to 13 committees, that's not the one we're talking about.
Okay,
Liz,
but this one, if passed, will go directly to the governor for signature.
It'll go to the governor, and then when we come to that point, we may need to make some calls to the governor, because you always risk the chance of the governor not signing it.
Liz, I want to, you had a very good point there, and I want to press this point to our audience. If you don't call anyone other than your representative, remember, any one of these people, if this law passes, it affects all of us.
Right.
So don't think for a minute, well, the guy's not my legislator, so I won't do it. What he does affects you, and don't kid yourself. So call these guys. That's what they're for. If you don't do it and say, well, my guy's going to support it, and you don't call, shame on you.
So I want to mention, I didn't mention this, but this is important. A group of us last Friday morning, 2 Friday mornings ago, we met with U.S. Congressman Mo Brooks here in Phoenix for breakfast.
Excellent.
And it was a group of about 7 of us. And when we explained to him how we vote in Arizona, he was shocked. He could not believe that there were so many loopholes to get in possible fraudulent ballots. I don't know how else to say it. He was shocked. So again, supporting 2289 is just so important. So that's my biggest recap here. And then the other things, if you want to become a PC, we still have a little over a week to get the petition signed in. So again, reach out to myself, Liz Harris, Dan Farley, or Dan Schultz, and we will get you set up as a PC. No matter where you are in the state, we can direct you. And then the last thing, I think, which to me is super important, is we got to continue to watch and support Mike Lindell, because he put his money where his mouth is.
He did.
And he spent so much money on this. And one question I have, why is it that our government spent somewhere between $25 million and $50 million on investigating Russia, But when it comes to Crime of the Century 2020, that's what I call it, when it comes to crimeofthecentury2020.com, why is it that people like me, like I am not fundraising for any of this election integrity stuff, why is it on the backs of the Mike Lindells of the world and the Liz Harrises to put our own time and money into this? And it's not me, it's all the patriots throughout the country that are really helping to expose the events of November 2020, and included, obviously, Tina Peters, who we need to give a lot of credit to for this Colorado discovery.
Now, I know you didn't want me to mention this, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Liz Harris is running for the House of Representatives in LD 13. How can they support you? Because you have truly been a pillar of strong constitutional values. So how can they support you?
Well, thank you. So I will start taking donations at votelizharris.com. That's votelizharris.com.
And who else would it be? It's Liz Harris.
Liz Harris, our rock star.
Yes.
You have been watching a special report by Hub Radio Phoenix. Take this information, pass it on to your friends. You might even attach this thing to your emails and chat lines, whatever it is. Get it out there because people need information to make good decisions. Thank you for watching.